Ever had one of those days where you finish the project? You answer every email. You even fix the leaky faucet. But somehow, you still feel useless at 2 a.m. Yeah, same. Let's talk about that feeling. The one that hides behind your calendar blocks, your color-coded Notion dashboards, and the little rush you get every time you check something off. This isn't really about productivity. This is about the part of you that's quietly burning out, in disguise. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a time I prided myself on being the most productive person in every room. 5 a.m. wake-ups, cold showers, pomodoros, deep work. I read Atomic Habits twice. I drank protein shakes with mushroom powder before it was cool. But underneath that, if I'm being honest, I was just scared. Scared that if I slowed down, I'd feel the weight of everything I'd been avoiding, the grief I hadn't processed, the loneliness I didn't want to admit, the quiet fear that I wasn't enough unless I was useful. Productivity became my armor, and like any armor, it was heavy. And eventually, it cracked. Here's where it gets tricky. Productivity isn't bad. It helps us build, create, heal, earn. It gives us structure in a chaotic world. But here's the hard truth. Sometimes we're not being productive because we're disciplined. We're being productive because we're anxious. We overschedule because we're afraid of silence. We chase goals because sitting still makes us feel pointless. We measure our worth by how many things we've accomplished, not by how deeply we've lived. And the world rewards us for it. Wow, you're so driven. You're killing it. You're always busy. That's awesome. But what no one says is, you seem exhausted. Are you okay? Psychologists call this productive avoidance. It's when we stay busy to avoid discomfort, like overworking to avoid dealing with relationship issues, setting new goals to ignore the existential dread creeping in at 2 a.m., cleaning the entire house instead of having one uncomfortable conversation. You're not lazy. You're actually doing too much, but not always for the right reasons. Dr. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust and went on to create logotherapy, once said, "When a person can't find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure." I'd add, or with busyness. Because action, even mindless action, feels safer than stillness. Taoism has a different take. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu writes, "Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear?" There's something hauntingly beautiful about that. Because stillness isn't just the absence of movement, it's the presence of clarity. But we rarely let ourselves get still enough to see. We confuse effort with value. We think slowing down is a sign we're falling behind, when in truth, it's the only way to know where we actually are. The Tao suggests, stop trying so hard to force your way forward. Let life reveal itself. Let meaning find you, not just through doing, but through being. What a concept, right? It reminds me of something Calvin Rosser once shared. He's a high-achieving writer and entrepreneur, one of those people who always seem to be climbing higher, doing more, achieving faster. But despite the wins, the accolades, the full calendar, there was this quiet emptiness trailing behind him. During a trip to Costa Rica, something shifted. He found himself watching local women hand-sorting coffee beans, slowly, mindfully, without rush or urgency. They weren't chasing metrics or optimizing productivity. They were just there, present, content. And that shook him. Because in their stillness, he saw his own restlessness. Their simplicity exposed his complexity. And it made him realize that all his striving, all his checklists and milestones had become armor. Armor that kept him from facing a deeper truth, that he was disconnected from himself. That moment sparked something. He didn't sell everything and disappear into the jungle or anything. This isn't that kind of story. But he did begin to peel back the layers, to slow down, to feel again. Calvin's story isn't rare. It just rarely gets told, because it's uncomfortable to admit that success can be hollow. that high performance can be a hiding place, but it's also liberating. When he stopped trying to force fulfillment and started allowing himself to just be, he discovered something that hustle culture never taught him. That meaning doesn't always come from chasing. Sometimes it comes from standing still long enough to be found. Let's go back to something more real for a sec. You ever have a quiet Sunday with nothing planned, and suddenly you feel this weird panic? Like, what am I doing with my life? You open TikTok, scroll a bit. Maybe you start cleaning the fridge or mapping out your new routine again. But what you're really doing is avoiding yourself. Because silence makes space for all the questions you've buried under your busyness. Am I happy? Why do I feel numb? What am I chasing so hard? And why does it never feel like enough? Productivity won't save you from those questions, but they might save you if you're brave enough to listen. What if the version of you that does less is still worthy? What if rest isn't lazy, it's wise? What if slowing down isn't weakness, it's self-respect? You don't have to earn your place in the world every single day. You're not a task, you're a person. The Tao teaches Wu Wei, effortless action. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means flowing with life, not against it. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is pause. Not because you've burned out, but because you've remembered. You're not a machine, you're a soul. And souls need stillness to breathe. So if you've been hiding behind your to-do list, if you feel that tightness in your chest when there's nothing to do, if rest feels more like guilt than grace, maybe it's time to ask, what am I really running from? And what might happen if I stopped? You might cry. You might feel everything you've been pushing down. But you also might meet yourself again. Not the productive version, not the high-achieving, optimized, always crushing it version. Just you. Quiet. Human. Enough. Maybe you don't need a better routine. Maybe you just need to believe that your worth isn't tied to what you produce. Let that settle. I'll see you in the next one.